Hey guys, so if you haven't noticed, there is some interesting audio going on, and if you don't have your earphones in, then you don't know what's going on. Anyways, so this is something I've been sitting on for a while. I made it, I think, like 6 or 7 months ago, but I just never kind of showed it off because I kind of put it to the side. But I decided I would do like a quick concept video for it because I might not ever get back to it, and I thought it was a really nice idea. So it's a very lightweight ambient sound effect system. The reason why I didn't finish it is because I wanted to do like sound effects for every biome, but that takes a lot of work to get the sounds, do the audio processing, and do the balancing. But I can at least show you the forest, which I thought turned out pretty nice. So this is kind of like the forest biome, and you can hear some. Oh, let me go over to the sand over here. But you can hear some of the birds and the woodpeckers and the wind sound effects. There's some additional sound effects for sand and stone that I added that are just kind of just like wind and dust kind of blowing. Just because the biome that I originally was testing this in had a lot of those blocks. But yeah, you can kind of hear some rustling and whatnot. I thought that this was very cool as like an ambient sound effect. I thought it was very like it was. I would actually want to use this in vanilla survival if there was a sound effect for every biome. Of course, it could be a bit distracting. Maybe you're trying to listen for zombies. So we're gonna go over how I did it, just as like because this is just a concept video, and I just wanted to showcase kind of like the concept of it. So if I go to my resource packs, and then I go to ambience, I think I spelled it wrong, but I don't care as long as I'm consistent. So there's just a bunch of sounds. So here's a list of sounds. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sounds for the forest. Technically, elk is unused. I didn't like the way that turned out. And then we have a sounds.json telling us to create the sound files. Pretty simple. This link doesn't work. So then we have the default world here, and we have the data pack that plays the sounds. So the way the data pack works, let me zoom in on the folders because it's a bit zoomed out. The way that the data pack works is you use my MacLeod to get random numbers, and based on those random numbers, we play different sounds. The reason why you can't do this with like predicate randomization is because you want to pick one sound out of many options. You can't just do Boolean. So in the init function, you create a scoreboard called Ambient Forest, and this is actually where most of the magic is happening. So if I go ahead and put Ambient Forest on the sidebar, you're going to see a bunch of numbers that indicate different sound effects go up and down very quickly. If I ran away, they would eventually like become some static numbers and never change. So essentially, we have a list of sounds and a amount of sounds that we are able to use. So every second, main 20 ticks, it plays AMB render. AMB render summons an area effect cloud, and this area effect cloud is teleported randomly within a certain radius of the player, so 8 to 20 blocks. You don't want to spawn a sound directly in their feet because that would be weird. So it spreads the players. This actually wouldn't really work inside of a cave, so I'd have to do a special thing for doing cave sound effects. And then at the ambient effect cloud, it plays the directory. The directory just plays forest, but this would actually do like a biome check and figure out what biome you're in. And then in the forest, we check if you are on a grass block, a leaf block, or a stone, or a sand. So this area effect cloud got spread around, and he landed on some block. So depending on what block it landed on, it'll play a different set of sounds that it could be. So if it landed on a grass block, then we run a randomization between 1 and 4, and we get some output between 1 and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we set bool to 0. So bool is just going to keep track, like, did we actually play the sound? Because it's possible that we're not supposed to play the sound. So we go into, if the RNG number is 1, then we play elk, okay? So then we go into play, and we play elk. And then in elk, it checks if the elk score is if it's 0, then it tells us overflow, and overflow essentially just sets bool to 0. And it adds 1 to out. So what this does is it allows us to, if we did a RNG and it cannot play the sound, then we'll just go to the next sound. And that's all overflow does. So since elk always has 0, because I didn't like the elk sound effect, it will never play the sound. And it'll just always overflow to wind 1 if you pick elk. So if we go biomes forest, play wind 1. So wind 1, if it's 0, then overflow. But if it's 1, then play the sound at the area effect cloud with a specific volume and a specific pitch that I kind of tune based on what I think is fair. And then we also schedule a reset function to happen after a specified time, which this is all tuned, which is why doing this stuff is very tedious, because I kind of go in, type reload, see how it feels, and if some sound occurs too often, I can change the time. Obviously, the reset time needs to be longer than the sound effect, and then maybe a little bit longer than that, so you don't just keep hearing it loop the sound effect. And then we also remove 1 from the .wind score. So then when something resets, essentially what it does is if the wind is less than the maximum, which is some invisible value, then you add 1 to it. So you're just every time, and it's using schedule append. So every time you play the sound, it's going to reset the sound effect emitter value 1 time per time you play it at some point 30 seconds in the future. And then every time you reload the world, it resets everything, kills all the sounds, of course. So then that's literally everything. So it's just like some basic kind of handling, not too complicated, very lightweight. It only does stuff once every 20 ticks. So you're not going to see too many issues on the debugger. Let me see, shift F3. No. Alt F3. I think it's shift F3 alt. So you can see the TPS here. We're having like pretty good here. It's very down here. It's very in the green. So we're not having any kind of issues. You might have some spikes, but that's mainly just from me walking around in a vanilla world. So you're really having no issues here in terms of the data packs concerned. And I think I'm playing with 20 chunks, fancy, smooth lighting max, and I think I have some kind of I have frame rate unlimited, but it could just be that I'm recording. So anyways, super lightweight ambient data pack. You can try and recreate something yourself if you want, but it is very difficult to get good, clean sounds like the ones I have here that work for the biome. It's hard to find them, and then once you find them, you have to balance them so they sound right. So for example, that high-pitched bird sound you heard, you don't want that sound happening too often because that'll sound weird. So you want to just balance everything out, and doing that is very difficult. It's time consuming. It's not difficult, but it's time consuming. Anyways, that's it for this video. Just a cool little concept that I want to show off. Other information, I am on my other computer today, so I have the superpower computer, and I will have that for months. So maybe some live streams in the future. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.